Yo, is this thing on? This is not a figment of your imagination. We're back. We are back. Yo, before Dylan, I got so much I gotta ask you, bro. This is gonna be a really good episode. But I just have to shout out everyone in the Colorado scene. The Springs, specifically. I missed you guys so much. When I came back, it just felt good. It feels good to be back. We had RTN seasons not that long ago, and all the folks from Denver came down, and it was just, I miss everyone. And if you think I'm talking about you right now, I am. I started writing out a list of people. It just got way out of control, and then I'm like, if I miss someone, they're just gonna feel. If I spoke to you at any of the events recently, I'm talking about you. It feels so good to be back. I missed the Flesh and Blood scene. It was a whole year off, and you guys brought me back. So it feels good to be back. It feels real good to be back. Dylan, what's going on?
You already know. We're happy to have you back, Dan. You already know that.
Yeah, man. I was doing nothing. I competed in TFT for the first set after I stopped playing, and then I stopped doing that. And I'd be playing video games with you guys, and then it's every Tuesday or Thursday night, you're like, all right, I got to go to the armory. And I would just sit there with Steven Glansberg by my goddamn self. I got to get back to playing cards. It feels so good to be back. I miss everyone, for real. And the scene has gotten so much better skill-wise. The energy in the room is insane. RTN season was so much fun. I did not qualify, and I still had a blast. Again, shout out to all the people from Denver. I wasn't even going to go to the Denver RTNs, and then we ended up getting a hotel room and staying the whole weekend.
I think I asked you if you were going to go to the Denver RTNs, and you're like, nah, I'm just going to do the ones in the Springs, but last minute you decided to go, and I was like, hell yeah, he's on it again. He's on it.
Bro, all it took was the one in the Springs, and I just saw all the Denver people. Oh my God. The welcome was just, I knew I wasn't going to get booed or anything like that. It wasn't like I left the scene in a bad, you know what I mean? I was like, fuck everyone on my way out. But the welcome I got just reminded me of why I played Flesh and Blood to begin with, and it just feels right, man. It just feels so right being back. So thank you guys, and hopefully I don't go missing anymore. This is it. I'm off that. I'm back. We're back.
He's back.
Yo, Dylan.
Not on Katsu though. Not on Katsu.
No, they buried my guy. That's how you know I want to play Flesh and Blood again, because
exactly.
Katsu's dead, and I'm still having fun. So I just had to get that out of the way. Shout out to the Colorado scene, because that's most of the people that are listening to this anyway. And it really made my heart warm, the reception. So we had to do this. And Dylan, if I was going to come back on any specific episode, bro, it was going to be this one. First off, how are you, bro? Speaking of RTN season, you had some success a couple times.
Yeah, no, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. RTN season was a lot of fun. It was actually the turnout was really good. I was not expecting so that many people who showed up to Iron Line and came to the Springs to actually come. But I think we sold out of tickets, and then a couple of people couldn't make it, but it was amazing. It was really good. It was just a lot of fun seeing everyone again, for the new year. I haven't seen the Denver folks since last year, PQs, so it was nice seeing everyone again.
Hell yeah. So the topic of today's episode is, I think, super important, and I'm super excited to talk about it with you, because we went to the one up in Denver. It was at where was it exactly where you split with?
Yeah, that was level 7.
Okay.
Level 7.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and I'm watching Dylan play. Now, I've watched Dylan play a lot. I've played with Dylan a lot. We have traveled and competed. You're always very composed at the table. And I remember watching you at the final table, because I was playing, so I didn't get a chance of really watch you. And at this point, I had scrubbed out, and it was the first round of top 8. And I walk over, and I'm watching you play, and I'm like, I think it was Carlos. One of the homies was there, and I was like, yo, who is this fucker playing like this? This is not the old Dylan. And now, if you know Dylan or you listen to this podcast or talk to the team, Dylan always shows up. This is not like he went from not playing well at all to like top 8ing this, the R10 top 4ing, winning these RTNs. You were always like a killer at the table, but when I saw you, I was like, whoa, pause. I could not wait for you to finish the game because I don't know if you remember, as soon as you walked over, I was like, dude, what is happening? Like, what happened? I was like, what happened? The year that I took off, it was, if you were there or you played against Dylan at one of the top 8s, because you won, I mean, you split one of them, but you won 2, right? Like, let's call it what it is, right? You made it to the final table at 2 of them, regardless of like the agreement that you and your opponent have. You did it back to back. And if you are from Colorado, you know what our scene is like. If you're not from Colorado, our locals probably aren't yours. And I'm not trying to mean like we're the unique snowflake but we kind of are. Colorado can say that 2 times back to back, someone from Colorado top 8 at Worlds.
Yep, that is true.
So our scene is full of a bunch of killers, and there was like 50 or 60. How many people were at these RTNs?
It was like 40, I think 46, almost 50 at level 7. I know it was in the 40s. I don't remember exactly, but it was a lot. It was a lot.
It's a ton of people.
Yeah, same also at the first one, MEH games. Same 40 plus. So good turnouts.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
So I grabbed Dylan and I grabbed everyone else, and I'm like, yo, what happened? Like, what's going on? Because you are not the same player you were when I was playing. And again, I'm not talking about Dylan making the jump from like novice to competing at a high level. He was already competing at a high level. So the topic of today's podcast is going to be leveling up inside and outside of Flesh and Blood. And the one thing that I've realized is to make that last like 10%, right? When you're already competing at a high level, to kind of reinvent yourself or make those last changes are usually the hardest because 1, they're the hardest to see. And 2, usually the things that are in your way, like they're not obvious, but they're also, it could be like not even associated with Flesh and Blood, right?
True.
So I grabbed him and I was like, bro, we have to have this conversation because 1, I selfishly want to know. And 2, dude, it sucked because we've hung out since then and I've wanted to ask you these questions since then. And I'm like, nah, I want to have it organically on the show. So I want to break this down into 2 different kind of sections. And I want to talk about some of the changes you've made with Flesh and Blood and then the changes that you have made outside of the game of Flesh and Blood. Because the one thing you said to me when we had this conversation, I was like, yo, you're not the same player. And you were like, I'm not. You know that you're not. Like, yo, if you played 20 games with the Dylan from a year ago, how many times would the old Dylan beat you? Be honest.
Yeah, probably 0.
Yeah. But like I saw that.
Beat me.
Oh my God, you were playing perfectly. All right, so what are some of the changes that you think you've made inside of the game of Flesh and Blood? So have you changed the way that you are preparing? Have you just taken it more seriously? And again, I never asked Dylan these questions before because I wanted to have these like organically here. So talk about like kind of the year that I was off. Did you have any different approach to the game of Flesh and Blood? Not outside. We'll talk about that, but like specifically with Flesh and Blood. Has your prep changed? Has your view on the game changed? Has just the meta changed and maybe it was better for you? Like, what are some of the changes that happened inside of Flesh and Blood?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that changed for me is being more resourceful. So I utilized, Patreons from a lot of pro players, gained a lot of knowledge, information from their discords and channels, to try to stay, on the curve of what the meta would be during the time of, a release or something like that. That helped a lot. I can only gain so much knowledge on my own and learn so much on my own, and learning from a pro or someone that's better than me, listening to their ideas, looking at it from their point of view, matchups, plays, patterns. I just tried to adopt what they were doing and try to mimic that. and it's helped a lot. Like honestly, like things inside the game now. I'm playing on both my turn and my opponent's turn. Previously, I play. I'm known for playing aggro decks and or mid range decks like Zen, aggro mid range. And with those decks, you kind of when we first start to play the game, you're kind of trained to ignore everything your opponent does because you're not blocking. This is back in 5 days, Art of War, all that good stuff. You're not blocking. You're just gonna take it and then just dump your hand. So I stopped doing that and actually think about value a lot more and thinking about what my opponent may be attempting to do on their turn by looking into their graveyard, looking into their banish, counting cards, just staying on top of stuff like that because it does matter. It makes a huge difference. If you can guess correctly or if you can assume correctly what your opponent has and prevent it or stop it or play around it, it definitely can tilt the game in your favor heavily. And I've just gotten a lot better at staying present during my matches as well. And that's a lot of stuff that I learned from these pro players. They're obviously on top of that, and doing that a lot and practicing that definitely helped me level up. I think I started doing that like in September or August of last year, and then we had PQs I think in October and November or late September, and during those PQs, I did well. I practiced what I learned, and I did really well. I top 8 at every event, top 4 2 events. I didn't get a finish, but I was really, really happy with my results. And I just continued from there. Going into the RTN season, I kept practicing that. Obviously, staying on top of the meta, trying to make some predictions, listening to what pros are saying, and taking that in along with making my own assessments and my team also making assessments. It's helped me a lot. Just staying open minded as well. Staying open minded just helps a ton in game and also out of game. So yes, that's how it is, man. That's all it is. It's just
You can't say that's all it is, bro. You said a lot of things. I'm over here trying to take notes. I'm trying not to type too loud though, dude. Okay, you said a lot that I wanna touch on, and the first thing you said is like being more resourceful. This is something I see. I've had a coach in everything that I've done, and it comes from me being a coach and things that I have done prior. The biggest thing being boxing and Olympic weightlifting and like CrossFit, like got me there. But I used to compete at a pretty high level, and then I started coaching. The one thing I realized right away is like the value of having a coach, right? Because like I'm doing it myself, so I can see the impact that I'm having on my athletes. And it's like, holy shit! Like, if you buy into what your coach is saying and your coach knows what they're doing, it goes so far. And immediately after that, everything I've ever done competitively, I've had a coach, right? So when I played TFT, I had a coach. When I play and currently still play Flesh and Blood, I have a coach. Everything I've ever done, I've hired a coach for. And it's one of those things that like, I think as people get better, or the perception is like the better you are, the value of a coach goes down because you're naturally so good. And it's like, dude, I want to grab people by their collar and just shake them. It's like it could not be more of the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
The best player, think about the best people like what analogy can I throw out that people will know? Mike Tyson or Conor McGregor, like one of like the best fighters that you can think of. Not only do they have like their normal coach, but they have like a wrestling coach, a jiu-jitsu specifically a coach, a nutritionist, a boxing coach, a kickboxing coach. You look at like someone like Michael Jordan, he probably had a shooting coach, a defensive coach, a cardio coach. Like the better you get, the more resourceful and resources you usually end up using because it's so hard to pinpoint your own weaknesses, and that's what you pay someone else to do. The other thing that I think is like, don't get a free coach. Free advice, like, what do you do with free advice? Like, no one takes free advice. So if you already have the buy-in where, like, you're paying them to do something, they're also going to give you advice that is worth your money. Where, like, if you just ask some random on the Purple Discord or, like, Reddit or something, they're just going to give you free, this guy's not paying me. I'm just going to, like, give him whatever.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. the other thing you talked about is like being present, and like if anyone was watching you play, Dylan does not take his eyes off of what's happening. So like he's paying attention to every single thing that's happening because I watched it. And when I watched it, I was like, dude, who is this guy? You look like the T-1000 from Terminator 2, bro. You were so locked in. It was like you were paying attention to not only your opponent's mannerisms and like their social cues, every single card that they pitched, every single card that they threw, like every bit of information you were able to take in real time. And I was like, oh my bro, on Talishar I'm not even doing that. It just gave me like, I was like, okay, I see how much work I have to do. And it was like not a bad realization, it was like a good one, right? Because most people think that like they think that they plateau, or they think like this is as good as I'm going to get, and they really think that they're doing everything it takes to compete. And then you hear someone like you who has like time and time again being top 8, being top 4 at almost everything that you're every time you sit at the table, you're like getting to these tables where it's top 8 at least, top 4, or you're winning. Those 2 RTNs you won. Like dude showed up already with the gold foil and his RTN ticket and showed up and did it again. Like you have to be consistent to do that. That's not luck. That's not like you're on the good deck. It's all the things. So if you're listening to this and you're like, damn, I wish I was like playing better, just know that like there's probably more than you realize that you're not doing, or the skills that you don't even realize that you should be working on. And like a coach is a great way to get there. Dude, I'm so happy that you're like, I mean, do you want to talk about who you're working with currently, or just keep it at you're working with a coach?
Yeah, we can talk about it. Up until this point, I've tried to avoid the limited part of Flesh and Blood. So drafting still is a lot of fun. Drafting's fun, but I'm horrible at it. They're both really fun formats, but I'm just not a good drafter. I've never played another TCG where I've drafted before. Prior to Flesh and Blood, I just played a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! When I was like 12 and 13. So no drafting experience. So this was a completely new concept for me when I started Flesh and Blood, and I tried to avoid it as long as I could. And then I obviously I qualified for Nats once or twice, and when we got to the drafting part, that's where I would just like crap the bed. It would be bad. Obviously, I'd watch some YouTube videos, try to learn that way, but I wouldn't be able to take it in. Like I need guidance, and I need someone that I can ask direct questions to when they come up. So that's something I'm working on now, and I'll start working with Yuki. She's a hell of a drafter. I'm going to be working with her next week. Next Tuesday is when I start. I'm looking forward to that. Trying to level up, on the drafting side as well. I'm trying to be well-rounded. But yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be another cool thing that I can hone my skills in, and hopefully, put up some results once that gets nailed down.
Dude, I do not doubt it. It's like crazy to think how good some players get without being resourceful. And then with you specifically, when you were like, yo, I'm gonna get a coach and I'm doing this stuff, I could not contain how like joyful it made me, because I was like, oh my God, like this is gonna be the thing. Like you were already doing well and didn't have access to this, and now It's like, I mean, dude, you fucked it up for yourself, man. You can't get that good at CC and then not know how to draft, right? You're gonna be
right?
Good. Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
But I see a difference in you where like I think previous years you were just happy to be there, and I think you're over that. Like I can see that you're like it's no longer. The goal hasn't been hit if you just make it to Nats. You've been there, you've sat there, and now it's like I could see it. It's like, it's just crazy because, again, it's so hard to reinvent yourself as a Flesh and Blood player or anything else because you get so, like, dragged through your habits, like what you're used to already doing.
You get stuck in your ways. Yeah, definitely.
So to come back and see you be like reinvent yourself as a player, I was like, we have to talk about this. That's awesome, dude. I'm so excited to see like where it goes. And you mentioned another thing that I just want to echo, where it was your practice was more mindful. I can't.
Exactly.
If you're playing Flesh and Blood, it doesn't mean you're practicing, right? Like, just playing the game of Flesh and Blood doesn't equate to, that's not practice. That's playing Flesh and Blood. If we go and play a pickup game of basketball, I'm not practicing basketball. I'm playing a game of basketball. And usually, training and competing are on opposite sides of the spectrum. What I mean is, when you're training mindfully, you're trying to get better. When you're competing, you are not trying to get better. You're not trying to learn at all. You're just trying to win.
Yep.
And I've seen your practice be way more mindful. Like, you're asking for specific reps, you're asking very specific questions, you sought out specific help. It's not just like, yo, let's jam 8 hours of Flesh and Blood, and then when I lose, I'm going to be mad because I spent 8 hours practicing. It's not really practice.
Right. Definitely. I agree 100%. Yep.
All right, so be more resourceful. Be open-minded. I like that one too. You're never afraid of being wrong.
Yeah, no, I'm wrong a lot, and I like to know when I'm wrong so that I can know how to not be wrong next time. Yeah, it's one of those things that's also key to your success as a fab player and anything really. But yeah, also just being present in the moment is huge. Inside of Flesh and Blood and outside, but in a match, staying locked in, being present, doing the same thing taking inventory, knowing what they have, what they don't have, what they might not have, watching what they're pitching, all that, just staying present and watching. If I miss, I don't miss it anymore, but during training, if my opponent pitched cards and I didn't catch it, I would ask them what they pitched just to know and train myself. But I don't do that anymore. I check every time
But
now.
that's how you
But
practice
doing
that?
stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's how you practice. Yeah. You tell yourself and you remind yourself, and it's become second nature once you put the practice in, put the work in, and the results they get better on your side.
Do you find that just being present checks all the boxes? So, like, what I mean by that is, like, let's say a newer player comes in, not a newer player, let's say it's someone who has taken down a couple armories, has maybe traveled to some events, but hasn't really cracked into, like, those tier 1 events. Like, they don't have, like, a top 8 at, like, let's say, like, a calling or something like that, right? And they're like, yo, Dylan, like, how do I do that? Does being present check all those boxes? Do you have, like, an internal checklist that you're like cycling through, like, make sure I'm looking at their pitch, or are you just like, make sure I'm just taking in every single cue and bit of information that I can during this game?
Yeah, I think when you start being present, you take in every single piece of information. But once you get good, or once you get more familiar with the things that you're seeing, over and over again, then it becomes like specific decks. I'm looking for specific cards that are being pitched or played or blocked with in specific decks, because then that gives me information that I can use throughout the rest of the game. So to a new player, I would definitely just try to be present with everything starting out. I think the biggest gap with new players coming into Flesh and Blood and learning the game is just learning every card. So being present, looking at every card, reading every card, knowing what it does, that helps a lot. And then, once you got that down, then you can be more targeted for, then you can focus on things that you're looking for specific decks, what they might be running or what they, pitching with, blocking with, playing, stuff like that. But yeah, being present is a great start and definitely checks boxes for improving your skills right away.
Yeah, you gave a good, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, if I'm trying to learn how to do this skill that's over here, I start here. Like a good
Yeah, it's like a
oh my god, I'm gonna remember this is
direct, or like a what's the word?
Oh my god, Susan, do you know what I'm talking about? If you're trying to teach a skill and it's very advanced, so you give them these little progression. Oh my god. God, you're the MVP. All right, cool. Yeah. If you can't tell, I moved. I got new digs, so I'm living with my girlfriend Susan, and She's part of the podcast now. So progression, you gave a very good. Thank God, you gave an amazing progression. Where, because some, like in my head, I'm selfishly asking these questions too, man. Like a lot of these apply to me. I don't have a tier 1. You know what I mean? So like, if I ask the questions that will help me, I feel like it will probably help. I feel like I fit into a very big demographic here. So you gave a very good progression where it's like, yo, read the cards. Make sure you know what every card in your opponent's deck does. And if you don't, look at it and read it. And that means cards that they play, cards that they block with, and cards that they pitch. The amount of times I've seen at tier 1 events someone not know what one of my cards did, it's almost an embarrassing amount. And it's immediately, I'm like, dude, you are. I remember back in the Katsu days, it was a calling. Round 1, I was against the Bolton. And I threw Bonds of Ancestry, and he was like, what does that card do? And I was out loud, I was like, dude, you are fucked. There's no way I'm so sorry. Let me introduce you to this card. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I still do that, to be honest. Like, every time I play against an assassin and they throw like a Bonds of Agony, like, I know what the card does, but I want to make sure I read it again so that I know exactly what it does and how it just reinforces. It makes me rethink how it may disrupt me or how it will, mess up my play or something like that.
We talked about it today, and like in the Discord, we said I said I was listening to a podcast. Again, I was being resourceful, listening to pro players. I was listening to a podcast. They talked about the interaction with new and what's the somersault card? Electrostatic.
Yeah, electromagnetic somersault.
The somersault card that Aurora plays that bounces the card back.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh my God, I forgot. If you play a stealth card on new, it banishes on that chain link. So you cannot somersault the cards back. And it's like things like that where it's like those things are very clearly written on the cards, but we forget them sometimes. So that's good. You gave an amazing progression from the beginning of like how to take it from like this is not a skill of mine. I can develop it. Once I know the cards, I know what they all do, and I'm already paying attention to each individual card. It's easy now to add on to this where it's like, okay, now I'm going to be looking for very specific cards, but we have already built this skill where I am already being, like, if you're listening to this right now, ask yourself, are you paying attention to every single, even if you're not pitch stacking your opponents, like remembering it? Are you saying my opponent pitched a blue, so he's got 2 more resources? Do you know the blue that he pitched? And even that is like, we should all be doing that, man.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Yeah. Even like evaluating hand size, your opponent's hand size, and kind of anticipating what plays they can make with that hand size is huge. That's like such an advantage on your side if you know exactly how your opponent can play their hand based on things like that. So, there's just a lot of things there's so much intricacies during a match that that I missed previously that I now am, being more aware of and trying to better prepare myself by looking at, I pull up random, well, I guess not random, I pull up winning decks of heroes and I just look through the deck list and try to evaluate the cards and see what kind of plays they can make. And that's helped a lot. Like I wouldn't say it's obviously not 100% success rate, but I can make a good assumption on how they may play their hand and try to play around it.
Isn't it crazy that like you can be pretty successful without doing that? Like you've had results without doing that, and it sounds. I mean, it's like anything else in this world, right? Like the best person at anything usually doesn't have the super secret tech. It's usually they're perfect with the basics. Yeah. The best players are, and in any sport, they're perfect with the basics. You can add on to that and develop, but that's like the bare minimum is you have to be perfect with the basics. And I just love that that's where you went kind of back to the basics to sharpen up those skills. And again, it's one of those things that it's like super hard to do when you're in it because you might have been playing Flesh and Blood for years and you're like, oh, that's what beginners do. Where it's like, no, it's not. It's what the pros are doing better than you. That's, you know what I mean? It's not what,
I mean, when I first started Flesh and Blood with Talking West when we had Dice Guys, it was more of like, you play your hand and I play my hand. Okay, you play your hand. And you don't taken everything. So I didn't learn those basics when I first started. I just learned them from, YouTube resources, but I never got to the point um, where I can, go beyond that and learn what are the other basics, or what other things could I learn, that's really basic that could, help my game. And yeah, it definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, I mean it shows, bro. Like for real, it
Yeah.
does show. And I knew that from other things that I've done in life that you weren't gonna, yo, I found the secret. This is the secret that
No,
you
it's
should
no
be
secret.
doing it. It's like, yeah. Oh man, I'm so
Yeah, it's no secret. It's just good
yeah.
habits and practice.
And hard
Practicing
work,
with good
man. The
habits.
work shows. You definitely have been working your ass off. So there's gold all throughout. We've only been doing this is 30 minutes now. There's so much gold. I'm gonna have to re-listen to this because you gave an amazing blueprint to like any player that is not getting the results that you want. Are you being resourceful? Do you have a coach? Are you looking at what pros are doing? Are you listening and taking? And there might be a lot of bad advice, but that's not a reason for you to just be like, well, the purple Discord is not, they're not that smart there, so I'm just not going to look at it at all. Because there are very good players that are sharing information there. So, like,
Yeah.
if you're not getting outside help, if you're not staying present, if you're not, like, educating yourself on the cards, all the cards in Flesh and Blood, it's like, dude, there it is. Like, there it is.
Yeah.
Start there.
Even the bad, even the bad information in the purple Discord is good, because then you can recognize and try and think about it and be like, yeah, that's bad. You can come to that conclusion yourself, which is also really good.
There's someone famous that I don't remember, but said something along the lines of like, every single life experience you can learn from. It depends if
Yeah.
you're open minded, like you said,
Yep.
to be able to learn from that. Sometimes it's learning how to not do something, but like even children you can learn from, right? You just have to. We get so stuck in our ways getting older and being adults that sometimes you just think you know better, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I had Sam Sutherland coach me on the Dash IO deck, and he's like a kid. I'm 37, and I was like, yeah, bro. He said something about, oh, it was awkward because my Bluetooth connected to my dad's meeting in the other room, and I'm like, oh my god, oh my god. But please teach me how to play Dash. Like, you know what I mean? It's not, yeah. The other part of this, which is equally as important, is I know you've had growth in Flesh and Blood and laid the blueprint, the foundation of like, yeah, if you're not doing these things, do them. You will get better. What are the things you've been doing outside of Flesh and Blood that have translated to you being a better Fab player indirectly?
Yeah. So, just a little backstory. Me and my fiance got engaged in Greece in early October, and I think it was June or July. We both told ourselves we wanted to, get a little bit more in shape for our trip. So we both committed to the 75 hard challenge. Actually, you don't know this, I don't think. I don't
No,
think
I
you know
no.
this.
This is amazing. This is what
Yeah.
I'm saying. This is why we're doing this.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
this. I don't know this.
Yeah. So we committed. We did it.
Wait, what is this challenge? Hold on, I gotta look this up right
It's
now.
called the 75 hard. Basically, you have to read 10 pages of a book every day, like a nonfiction book every day, or a self-help book, basically, every day. So 10 pages every day. Um,
I'm gonna put it over your face for 1 second. It's showing it
and
right
then,
here.
yeah,
Self-improvement
you
program that
gotta,
involves very strict set of rules, 75 consecutive days. Challenge aims to
yes,
build mental toughness, discipline, and physical fitness. Okay, I can see your
yep.
face again. Let's do this.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's like it's working out every day for some amount of time. I think it's 2 hours, 1 hour inside, 1 hour outside. But we did what we call a 75 soft, where we can only commit 1 hour to a gym every day. So 1 hour gym, reading 10 pages of a book every day, eating clean or eating better, and then also taking pictures of yourself every day. I know it sounds a little crazy, but it helps. It definitely helps.
Dude,
Like
as a personal trainer, it was one of the rules I would always have. You will notice the change in your body. You will be the last person to notice them. Everyone else, you see yourself every day. So hell
yeah,
yeah, hell yeah.
yeah. There's some. I think there were a couple other rules too. I don't remember exactly, but we got to 60. I think I got 67, and then I broke it. And the reason why I broke it is because I was happy where I was at. I didn't think I needed to go another 8 days to prove that I did the challenge. You know what I mean? It fixed my mental. It allowed me to be more present because I had these things that I had to do every day, and I had to, get them done. I couldn't just do my typical daily thing that I was doing previously, and just like going, just my non, I guess it's called, I don't know, my uh, daily habits that I wouldn't really think about a lot. It's just something you do and you don't really think about it.
It's why they tell you sometimes to brush your teeth with your left hand instead of your right hand. Because you're lefty, so
exactly.
They tell you to if you commute to work the same way every day, go a different way so that you're not on autopilot.
Yeah, I was on autopilot for a while, so we did that, and that kind of just like reset my mental. And since then, I've been continually, following. Maybe I'm not doing the same challenge, but I'm constantly thinking about staying in the present, and that's helped a lot. And I've actually, I kind of plateaued after the 65 soft challenge that I did. So I hired a personal trainer to get me, out of that plateau. And that's also what I've been doing since I started that in January after the holidays because the holidays were busy. But that has helped me, level up on the outside of Flesh and Blood. I've gotten stronger. My mental's also gotten better. I'm more cautious of what I'm eating now, and it's helped me a lot. I think when I moved to Colorado, I think I was like my weight was pretty high. It was like almost, it was like 230-ish, and then I blew up to like 250-ish mid last year, and that also kind of put me in a state of mind where I needed to change. I knew I needed to change some of my habits. And since then, I've lost like 30 pounds and gained a lot of muscle.
It shows. You
look
completely.
Not that that's important or anything. The important part is just like, getting off autopilot and, becoming more present. Maybe you're doing something on autopilot that if you actually thought about it, you actually wouldn't want to do it anymore. You'd actually probably want to stop. So just, you can't see that unless you think about it and you stop doing it.
I think you think it makes less sense than it does. It makes a lot of sense. And I have to correct you. I think your body composition change is very important. You said it's not important, but like, I've not always been in shape. I was very not in shape when I was younger. So this is like, I decide and try to keep myself in some sort of shape because I understand the mental clarity that I have.
Yeah.
And if we're talking specifically about Flesh and Blood, right, which is like what this podcast is about, you bet your ass if I'm sitting across on day 2 from someone who is out of shape and breathing heavily, I already know that I have an advantage over them. Flesh and Blood is a war of attrition. When Easton Douglas finished, I think, was it top 4 or top 8?
Top 8. It might have been top 4. Actually, it might have been top 4.
I can't remember. I think it was top 4.
I think
that was a podcast I was trying to do with him, and then I just went vanishing. So Easton, we're gonna do that episode, but he released an article about what he did to accomplish that, and it was more associated with non-flesh and blood things than it was associated with flesh. The changes that he made to like break through that plateau and like perform at Worlds and go home with a fat check. He talked about rock climbing. He talked about working out more and eating better. And it's like, hey, maybe that's not for you. Maybe that's not for everyone. But if you really want to get better at the game of Flesh and Blood, you have to understand that the best people are doing this. Yeah. So it's about like the best players are thinking outside of the realm of like it's not jamming 14 hours of Flesh and Blood every day. That's not what's happening here, right? That's horrible. That would be horrible practice. You're going to sleep like shit. It's just like you're going to be sedentary. That is not, you have to get your reps in and you have to get your practice in. But like, bro, when I look at you and like you and Josh are engaged now and it's like all this stuff is happening, it's like I looked at Wes and I was like, yo, it makes sense. Like this motherfucker's whole life is lined up right now. This is not an accident. Like you're locked in every single facet of like your life right now. Like it shows that like, hey, if you're successful over here in this part of your life, especially when it comes to fitness or nutrition and your mindset, of course it's gonna like trickle down into every other part. Like, yeah, I love it, man. Like I taking the year off and senior, I'm like, yo, this motherfucker's on the up and up. Like, hell yeah, dude. Like it makes sense that you're playing your best Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, I mean, just to go back a little bit, an example, I think it was Dallas calling. I got to day 2. I think I was like X and 2, and I think there were 2 rounds left. I was in contention for top 8, and fatigue just hit me, and it definitely was because I was, I didn't prepare right. I wasn't eating the right things. My mental wasn't, as best or as good as it could have been. So just as an example, 100%, you're right. The people that make it further, they're not going through that as I went through in Dallas, where you just hit fatigue and you don't see it. You can't think as well as you were in the previous rounds and stuff like that. It's just so interesting when that happens. And yeah, I wanted to not do that anymore also. So that was another reason to switch this up.
Yeah, that mental fog is like it's a real thing, man. Like even me who like, and like Wes is another teammate. We just ran a half marathon. At the top of the mountain that we ran up, I'm pretty sure I touched God's foot. This guy had us. Never let Wes, if you're listening to this is point number whatever. Take this note down. Do not let Wes plan a run for you. This half marathon was on a trail, 1,800 feet of elevation. That sounds to me like Colorado. I'm like, whatever.
That's pretty crazy.
Bro, he calls me. He goes, the incline is 2,000 feet in elevation? Like you gain 2,000. And I'm like, so we ran a half marathon with that amount of elevation gain throughout the whole thing. But that's when crazy. I talk to him, I'm like, damn, like even like I feel better, man. Like I'm not one to do. I used to fancy myself as a triathlete, and I ran a marathon in my life. But you can look at the size of me now and know that I hate this. I hate running. Dude, when we started talking about the running stuff, I was like, yo, does anyone want to do this? Everyone's like, I hate running. And me and Wes had the brilliant idea to start training. This was like almost a New Year's resolution thing. It was December when we signed up for this. So when we started running, it was January in Colorado. If you think I want to do that, you're out of your mind. But it's doing something, man. It's like it is definitely doing something. And the only reason I even brought that up was because my cardio was not very good. And I think the first time when I went out to Vegas, I played the PTI. Because I didn't qualify. I had just started playing Flesh and Blood. I had played that PTI, top 8'd, and the next day was calling day 1, and I felt it.
Yeah.
I felt it. Yeah. Broughton, my coach at the time, bless up Broughton. That dude's a real one. If you need cards, go to Righteous Gaming. Broughton was my coach, and he just looked at me, and he knew. He was like, you're not taking care of yourself. He's like, I know you're in shape, but it's not enough. It's a different kind of in shape. I'm not lifting weights. I'm using my brain. I'm using my brain all day long for 2-3 days sometimes, where if you show up, one of these things, you play the events on Friday and then you go to the tier 1 event Saturday. And if you make it, that's 3 days. You are always one that when we travel together, you are making sure you get a full night's sleep. Everyone else can stay up smoking, doing or whatever. You always make sure, like, no. Yeah, and when you pick a bedroom, you always pick one that's tucked away. You're like, no. Don't cast me with that 2 a.m. playing Flesh and Blood the day before a tournament type thing. So, yeah, you actually do that, man. That's all right. So you did this challenge, and you got yourself out of kind of the being on autopilot.
Yeah.
So the workouts have helped, the nutrition is there anything else that you think Or is that it, right? Do you recommend people doing specifically the 75 challenge, or just doing something that gets you out of your comfort zone and like out of the mundane autopilot?
Yeah. Yeah, the 75 hard challenge is in the name hard. If you can do it, props to you, and you will come out insanely different as you went in. But I think it's just getting out of your comfort zone and just doing something else that you may not, normally do. That will help a lot. Even something as small as that will help. Maybe going on a walk for 30 minutes a day. That will help. I'm getting in 10,000 steps a day now, every day, just doing that. When I'm doing that, it also helps me, think about things and bring myself into the present. And I'm glad the weather's getting nicer out. We went for a walk today outside and it was nice. But yeah, just doing something, out of your comfort zone and changing it up. Don't be on autopilot. Think, acknowledge what you're doing, and if you're okay with doing it, then it's fine. But you might acknowledge it and be like, oh, actually, I don't want to do this. I want to do something else. I know with video games, back in college, I used to play a lot of video games. I play video games now too, but back then, I think I went through something similar where I realized that, what am I doing? This game is fun, it's nice, but maybe I could be doing something else. And then there's some times where I'm not even having fun playing the video games, but you just play it anyway.
Yeah, because it's just like, oh, this is the time that I use to go play League of Legends and then leave pissed off at the world because
exactly.
And then you're right though. Like some people will still do it. They're like, I don't even know why I do this. And then the same time the next day they're queuing up the same ladder and they're walking around pissed the rest of the day. Yo, I'm one of them, man. I'm telling you for real, I'm one of them.
I used to be one of them. I used to be a hardcore leaguer too. But just maybe stepping away for a little bit and doing something else will help you and become better inside and outside flesh and blood.
I like that, man. I like that because again, when I told people I was running, I try to get training partners. I blasted it out. Does anyone want to train with me? Wes was the only one. Everyone else was like, yo, I hate running. And I'm like, yo, me too. You think I want to run? You know what it's like running 10 miles?
I know, man. I know.
No, but you were on your own thing. You're on your own thing. I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about, you know what I mean? The people who I'm talking about know that I'm talking about them right now, bro. Yeah. But it's like, yeah, man, because I felt that taking a year off, I was like, I wasn't really happy, man. That year was really tough. And it put things into perspective. And sometimes it takes discomfort. Like for you, it was like, maybe it was stepping on the scale and seeing 250. Yeah. And you're like, whoa, something's got to give. And sometimes it happens mentally. And that year off, man, it's not like I was in a real bad place, but I just wasn't like the chipper, goofy Dan that I usually am. Yeah. I felt it, and it was like, yo, something has to change. And the decision to do the marathon actually came before my decision to jump back into Flesh and Blood. And I think what it did was shake me out of the thing. Because, like I said, I ran one marathon in my life, and I said I would never do it again. And I used to be a triathlete, so I did a half Ironman, and a full Ironman is what I was training for, and the full Ironman ends in a marathon. So I ran a marathon to train for that, and I had the most miserable experience of my life. There was just like, not just the marathon went wrong, it was like everything went wrong that day. Like it was just terrible. It was the worst experience I could have had. So that was like the taste that was left in my mouth from that race was like, I did it. I can check that box. I am never running a marathon again. Yeah. When I told my parents, I called my dad, I was like, I'm training for a marathon. The first thing he said, I thought you said you would never do that again. And my response was, that's exactly why I have to do it. Like, that is exactly why I have to do this, is because it's the one thing that I said I would never do it again. And like, this time will probably actually be the last time I do it. But I'm finishing that race with a big FU across the finish line, because it's like, nah, I'm not going to let that beat me.
Yeah. And this one is going to be a better experience for you too. You're running with Wes, right? You're going to do the marathon with Wes?
Yeah, I'm not letting him pick where we run it.
It's going to be a great time, man.
It's going to be awesome. This dude, the furthest he's ever run is like 5 miles. He beat me in the half. By like the times were posted. I'm gonna act like I didn't see them. I'm gonna say by a couple minutes. It was more than a couple minutes. But he was waiting. He was like he had eaten his banana when I was crossing the finish line. He was rooting for him. Like, damn, this motherfucker's. He already like cooled down. You know what I mean? Like he was waiting for me. Yeah. He was already getting it. You know, he was ready to train for the next one. But he beat me. This dude is crushing it, and he did the same thing where it was like. He was like, I don't know if I could do this, but I'm gonna try. And he's just been putting the time in. And he's another one, man, that like I can't wait to see how this impacts him at the tables, because he also qualified for Nats.
Yep.
Had a game plan, stuck to it, did the thing. We had 3 members that qualified for Nats. 4 if you count Dylan twice.
Let
me get one of those. But yeah, man, well, Wes is it's going to be cool to see how this impacts you guys. I mean, I'm watching it with you. With Wes, it'll be cool because it's happening like in real time. We're doing all this like before this, he only ran 5 miles. Like,
you guys are like doing it in tandem together. So
we're not really we're on the same exact plan. So we get to text each other and be like, "Yo, that sucked, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then we share the misery together. But it was real cool running the race with him. And like, man, there's no beer that tastes better than a post-race beer. It just hits way different, man. So it's cool to be able to do that with him. But it looks like this is something that like a lot of the team members are adopting, and everyone's trying to push it to that next level. So I'm gonna check out that challenge. I mean, I can't fit it in. I can't do that challenge when I'm doing all this marathon training, but there's definitely parts of it. There's definitely parts of it that I could take. Like, I haven't read in a minute. So,
dude, I didn't read a book. That was the first time I picked a book since college. And I'm not, if we can go further back, if it's a book that's not about school, I'm talking about like high school.
No, most people fit it.
I went through 3 books. I went through 3 books, and they were great books.
Anything you would recommend?
Those books helped me.
Anything you'd recommend?
They were more on finance. So like Rich Dad Poor Dad. One I would recommend is Power of Now. That book is crazy.
Eckhart Tolle, bro. I love that book.
Power of Now. Yes, that's the first book I read, and then I went into finance books. The Power of Now is a great book. It's crazy. It's a great book.
I should reread it. It's probably been.
I reread it.
Yeah, it's probably been like over 10 years since I read that.
Yeah, it's a good book, man. It's always one you can pick up and you'll learn something from it. As many times as you read it, you'll learn something. So.
Hell yeah. And that's about everything you've been saying about staying present. That whole book is about staying present. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, cool, man. This is great. I'm gonna have to listen to this back selfishly. Take notes on the questions I asked you, because I asked these. They were very selfish questions, but I think what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I think a lot of people can take something from this.
It works, man. I mean, I think it was after level 7. There was another RTN, the one on Sunday at Advantage Games. Was it Advantage? Yeah. Was it Advantage? Yeah. I think we talked with like some of the folks from the Springs during our dinner, and they took that information. You know, they took what I shared with them that night and did really well at Advantage. You know, just implementing the most basic things. So yeah, it definitely works.
Carlos is an up and comer, man. I see him listening to the things that you're saying, and Springs is. I love Denver. I shout out Team Ascent, non-Team Ascent, all the Denver people. Like, again, the list just goes. The hug that Saren gave me when I walked in. Oh my God. It's just like I can go on, and there's only more people that I met.
We got a lot of new people in Flesh and Blood too, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
like
the scene is
Springs has been growing a lot, and same with Denver. I think at the RTNs, there was an Ira at level 7 that made top 8.
Oh, that's right. West played against them. Yeah.
Just new players that I haven't seen, within the last 4 months, 5 months, or haven't met, and they're doing well. People love the game.
The Springs players are hungry, and a lot of that is because of Denver. So we appreciate the talent that you guys have, but you guys are breeding a bunch of monsters down here because we are the stepbrother to Denver. And we know that we have to do something that's going to level us up. So, we're trying. I feel like they keep pushing us. So it's hard to not respect those people out there. And like I said, yeah, Easton Douglas was already doing this. That was like what his article did. So this is great, man. I'm so excited to see. I'm so excited for Nats. I'm so excited to see what Tuck and West do, what the folks from Denver do. I'm so excited. But I'm excited specifically for you guys because, one, you guys are the homies. You guys were on the same team. And two, I get to see all the work. Like, I get to see all the stuff really behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. Like, I ran the race with Wes. I seen you look, even the picture, we posted the picture when you were playing Mara, and you look like a different person. Like, I didn't realize how much weight you've actually lost because I didn't really think you were ever that big. But, like, now looking at you, like, you're so much, like, you're leaner, bro. It's like, I can't wait to see how this manifests onto the table. Because it all will, and it already is.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So if you guys and gals, if you're trying to get better at Flesh and Blood, he gave you the blueprint on how to level up in the game. He gave you the blueprint on how to level up out of the game. Do the 75 hard challenge. Sign up for a race. Get a partner to do it with you. Seek out extra help. Take better care of yourself. Stay present. Read some books, you animals. Read the cards. Read the cards.
Read the cards.
My
right?
God, read the cards. Come on.
My excuse for not reading books before was like, people ask me if I read books. I'm like, no, but I read a lot of cards. They have a lot of text.
You were lying right to them. Bro, you were lying back then, bro. There's so many Flesh and Blood players that don't read the cards, man. Read the cards. Stay present. Dylan, I appreciate you, man. There's a lot of gold in this episode. Protect Your Deck is back. We're recording this on a Wednesday. I'm in my Wu-Tang shirt. July 4th, if you live in Colorado and you don't have tickets to go see Wu-Tang, you're out of your mind. You bet half the Blood Rush Fellows are showing up there. Wu-Tang's coming to Colorado. This is like a real thing happening right now. I'm so happy to be back, man. Dylan, you got any last words for on the topic or any shout outs before we sign off?
No, man, just shout out to you for coming back, man. Even, your first appearance back at the Armories, the vibe is just different, man. You just bring a whole different vibe and happiness and joyfulness to the scene. So I'm glad you're back.
I'm glad I'm back too, man. It works both ways. I'm a happier person when I'm part of the scene. If you guys would have seen me throughout that year, I looked like a disheveled, like, I was like, you know what I mean? I was just like half of me. I was beaten up. It feels so good to be back, man. So I really do appreciate that. And yeah, man, we're going to keep this thing rolling. I don't know when this episode is going to release. I don't know what the plan is for the podcast and the consistency, the timeline of it, but it is most certainly back. If you guys have a topic you want us to cover, Easton, I'm grabbing you. We're gonna have that conversation. We're gonna keep these rolling. I appreciate everybody in the scene, and thank you, Dylan. I appreciate this, man. If I was gonna come back, this is the episode I wanted to come back on, bro.
No problem, man. You know I was down to do this when you asked me. So
hell yeah. All right, we will see you guys later, and protect that deck.
All right, peace.